Okay, hello everyone. Glad you guys could make it. Looks like we have a good big audience today. We're really excited by the response to these webinars that we're doing, and glad that you guys are engaging with us, and we are happy to be engaging with you. Hoping we can keep doing these things and make everything work a little bit more smoothly and make you guys more comfortable trying maybe some things that you've never tried within the software before. If you've been at some of the previous webinars, you probably have heard me complain that one of my biggest pet peeves or not pet peeves, but things that makes me feel bad, I guess, are when our customers who've been with us for years tell us, oh, I've never used that because I just didn't understand it, or I just never thought to call, and it's a feature that could save hours every month. So that's why we started these things, and that's what we're trying to change. So we're going to jump into this. We have a good bit to cover, but before I go too far, one thing we discovered in our first round of webinars last month, if you have this GoToWebinar site maximized on your screen, it hides the options for to send me messages. You can send me questions throughout this, or if I'm just talking too fast and you need to tell me to go back or slow down, you can send me a message, but if you have it maximized, it seems that it hides the send button. So just minimize it and then stretch it out versus clicking the maximize button. Like I said, if you do have questions, just let me know. If it's something real specific to your studio, let's save those for the end, but if you have something or need me to go back throughout, let me know. I can see the questions as they come in, and I'll try to keep them in front of me. One thing I want to do before we actually jump into today's topic, if you will give me one moment, we're going to be doing some updates next week, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sneak preview just to kind of get your feedback. Give me 1 second here. Let me get it pulled up on my screen. Well, I've lost it. Hold on for me 1 second. Sorry about this. Here we go. All right, so this is just a little test database that we use internally. And just want to give you guys a real quick peek. I think these will be ready next week, possibly the week after. But making some major changes to the attendance sheets that you guys print out to take attendance. This is going to be the new format, and a couple of cool things. So if you've been using this for a long time, you know that we've always had those random numbers of meetings that you can include. I think it was 3, 6, 17. Since I've been here, those numbers have never really made sense to me. I don't know how they were chosen before I started, but now you'll be able to tell the system, I want to include this many class meetings. We've added some things that you can include, and when you choose these things, going forward, they will be saved for you. So when you go to print them out again, whatever you've chosen will already be checked off, and you won't have to do that each time. The only thing that does not save is this start date. So I think you guys will really enjoy that. Another thing that we'll be adding, and someone asked us for this week, a year or two ago, when you pulled up an account, if they had a credit card saved, you'd see the icon for that credit card. So if they had a Visa, you saw the little Visa logo, or an Amex, same. Someone asked us to put that back. I don't really remember why we took it out. I don't even remember when we took it out, but we did. But someone asked us this week to put it back, so we're going to do that as part of this next round of updates. And we're going to add this little logo on the account list screen. So you can actually go through this and see people who have a credit card saved. The cool thing that our programmers did with this, and I would have never thought of, you'll notice these are going to be different colors. Green means, that credit card there's nothing wrong with. This orange, yellowish color means that credit card is actually getting ready to expire. This one, I looked at this account earlier today, is going to expire at the end of this month. So When a card is going to expire in that current month, it'll be yellow. And then if it's red, that credit card has already expired. So a couple of cool things that we thought you guys would like. One more thing we'll be adding and changing, I don't really want to get into it here, but will be part of this, is we're going to change the way you do makeups for students who aren't enrolled in a class. It's never been a great way of doing it, so we're addressing that. So now if a kid comes to a different class to do a makeup, it'll make it much easier for you to mark that makeup. So we think you guys will all enjoy those. All right, so let's get on with the show. All right, so the whole purpose of this webinar is to go over getting ready for next year, for this coming summer and this coming fall, the registration period. So that's what we're going to talk about. I am going to start in the customer access settings. If you guys look on your little GoToWebinar thing, I believe there is an option. Actually, let's just do it this way. And there's a bit of a delay between you and I. But if you've never used online registration before, just shoot me a message and let me know. I think most of you probably have, but I am curious to know if there's anybody in the audience who has not. So I'm going to jump into that while I'm waiting on your replies to come in. So that's where we're going to start, with the customer access settings. If you've never used online registration before, I really don't know why you wouldn't. Typically, when someone calls and I talk to them, their big hesitation is, I don't want the parents just enrolling in classes. If you don't already know, let me clear that up. It doesn't just automatically enroll them in the class. It's just sending you a request for you to approve for them. So they basically can see your schedule, pick the classes they would like to take, and then they submit it to you, and you have to approve each class. Because we understand if it just put them into the class and you had no say so, you would spend more time correcting that than it would save you. And the whole point is to save you time and to save your parents time, and to stop those long lines on a Saturday when it comes to registration time. So I'm going to jump in here. So first things first, the customer access settings completely control what your parents are allowed to do with that parent portal page. If you've never rolled that out to your parents, the things that they're able to do are, view and pay online if you're taking credit cards. Obviously, the online registration piece. They're also able to update their own contact information and any other piece of information you want to allow them to update themselves. And my stance on it is, most will probably still call you to update a phone number or an address. But if half of them do it themselves, that's fewer phone calls. That's fewer parents standing at your desk at night, taking up space, taking up time. Makes life a lot easier for them, a lot easier for you. Helps cut down a little bit on payroll, hopefully. And especially the online payment portion, it makes it a lot easier for them, and you get your money faster. So on this customer access page, it's broken down into 3 different categories here. Your general settings, and I'm not going to go super into detail on all of these because we'd be here for 2 hours. So when we're done, if you have questions, call us in the next week or so, and we'll spend an hour with you and go through them all. But this general settings page just controls sort of the feel of the parent portal, some of the things they see. It lets you customize the way things appear to them. Here are the links you would need to attach this to your website. You can kind of control some of the language on that login screen. When you get everything set up the way you want it and you're rolling it out for the very first time, you can send all of your parents' activation emails to activate their parent account. You can deactivate anyone who's never signed in. At registration time, you can control what happens with the class once it fills up. So you can pull it out of the list if you want to. You can keep it in the list but let everybody know it's full and they can't do anything about it. Or you can keep it in the list and let them register for it anyway. They'll know, but it'll still let them pick it. And that gives you the opportunity to waitlist students, or maybe recommend a different class. Or maybe if you have so many people wanting that class, it lets you know, hey, there's a big demand. I need to create a second one of these classes. To me, that would be the option to go with. but again, it's nothing more than preferences. This is some of the stuff that they'll, like studio messages will be something they see once they log in. You can give them a little instructions when it comes to registering. This is the biggie. When they do online registration and they hit that submit button at the end, whatever you have typed in here is that last message they see to let them know that they did this correctly. You've done this correctly. We'll get back to you within the next day, 24 hours, 2 days, whatever you want it to say. Down here, so this is going to be the biggie for today. Most of you guys are using online registration. Hopefully, you're all using the new parent layout. If you aren't sure, there's 2 easy ways to check. One, just pull up the parent portal login screen. If it's this pink and gray look, then you're using the old one. If it looks like, I'm going to pull it up here for you. If it looks something like this, maybe a different color, obviously we'll have your studio name and your logo at the top, then you're using the new one. We are going to be doing away with the old one here pretty soon. So you definitely want to be using the new one. Nothing's going to happen if you're using the old one. You're not just going to be down. It'll automatically switch to the new one, but you may as well go ahead and do it now. To switch to that, come here to the customer access settings. And if this box is checked, you're using the old one. So that's the second way of knowing. Just simply uncheck it. When you uncheck it, you'll have an option to choose from these different themes. And in these different themes, it controls kind of that color layout. This is just a tool set we bought and integrated. We did not come up with these colors. There in our knowledge base is an article with all the different, with a screenshot of all of them. So I would suggest checking that out before you choose one. Clean lines is a good one. There are a few in here that are just completely black. I would highly recommend avoiding those. But I would just choose one. Crisp is a good one also. I think that's what it was on just now. And then once you choose it, run through it and make sure it looks like you want it to look. Just a recommendation there. A couple of new things we've added on the screen that a lot of you may not even know, even if you've been using the new parent portal. You can actually set up now where within it there is a contact us page, and you can include all of this information. You can include your social media links if you want to. So that's very cool. It'll even show on a map where you're located. And then there's also a staff page, which was not turned on. If you go within your database to your staff screens, you can actually put in a profile. You can put in a little bio, and you can show this within the parent portal. So they can, at registration time, if they're interested, they can actually go check out the teacher, see who it's going to be, see what that person's background is, that sort of stuff. You can even include a picture so they can see the staff person. All of those are optional, but something you can do. And then lastly on this page, so most studios use these links at the top to attach the parent portal to their website. But if you want to get a little fancier, and you actually have someone managing, who manages your website, a professional website developer, or you're just very good with JavaScript, we provide you the code to integrate it more, so that it's almost like if you think about your online banking screen, where the login and everything is directly on your site rather than it redirecting to a different page. Like I said, we give you all the code here. You would just copy and paste this, and then you have to put in the formatting, such as the colors and things like that. So if you're familiar with JavaScript, you can do that. Or if you have a professional who does your website, you can do that there. And once it's done, it looks great. Trying to think if I can't think of off the top of my head of someone that does it, but in our knowledge base, there is an article explaining this, and there is one of our customers' websites to give you a better idea of what it looks like. Bear in mind, you can customize the colors. So theirs has a lot of pink and stuff in the login boxes. You can make those whatever it is you need. So those are the general settings. And I'm going to go through these other two much more quickly. Create account settings. This would be for someone who's never danced with you. Maybe a friend has recommended your studio to them. They pull up your website, like what they see. They're going to sign up. They go on. They go to create an account. You're controlling what they are required to fill in before it will allow them to actually select any classes. So on this screen, anything green means they have got to fill it in, or it will not let them get to the class selection screen. Yellow means it's optional. So obviously you probably want to make the name required. Red means they do not see it on the screen. So if I were coming to this studio, I would not see the option to choose my billing frequency or the source. Most studios we talk to hide the billing frequency, and I completely get it, honestly. Next is the existing account settings. So these are the settings that apply to everybody who is already in your database. Whether they ever used the parent portal or not, these apply to them. It's similar, but slightly different. Their information is already all in there, so they don't have to fill anything out. They just activate that account and they can log in, and their info is already there. So what you're controlling is what they can change. So if it's green, it means that the parent can update that information. If it is yellow, they can see that information but cannot update it. You'll notice I have the name here in yellow. I always tell people this. Don't let them change their name. If they want to just disappear on your studio and they owe you $500, if they went in there and changed the address and the name, you'd have no idea who they were. So make the name where they cannot edit that. To me, though, everything else after that's fair game. It's, again, like I said earlier, it's one less phone call. It's one less email to you. It's one less parent standing at your desk for 10 minutes. So you can let them change all of that stuff. Billing frequency. This, again, is very popular. Most studios don't want them seeing it, and typically if they do allow them to see it, they make it so that it cannot be edited. Completely understandable. Pretty much everything else in this, to me, is fair game, though. So let them edit that information and take the load off of your shoulders and your staff's shoulders. A couple of things we've added to this recently. We've actually recently changed this layout. It works the same way. It just looks a bit different than it used to. So if it looks different to you, don't panic. You just simply click what you want to do. So if I want to make the recurring billing visible or to where they can't, I just do that. So I've hidden it. But the one thing we've added recently that you may or may not know about, it's been a few months, but you can actually let them see, the parents see attendance now. I think I'm scrolling past it. No, let me get down. Here it is. So you can set it so the parents can see their children's attendance. This was requested. We actually had a lot of requests from studios to do this. It seems to be more popular for the older kids, the teenagers who maybe can drive, or maybe whose parents just drop them off and don't maybe watch them into the door. But you can now set it so that they can log in and check the kids' attendance on their own. Everything else, though, is pretty much straightforward in the way it's always been. So going to work through that. But the big thing is, especially if you've never used this, get these settings the way you want them and think it through and do a dry run for yourself. Create an account, run through it like you're a parent so that you're familiar with it, so that when you unleash this and it's registration day, people aren't calling you trying to figure out how to use it and you've never seen it before. We see that a lot. Be prepared for the questions because they'll have them. But if you've ever run through it more than once or twice, you'll have a pretty good feel and you should understand how it works, and it should be pretty easy. When you get those settings the way you want them, then you can just send an activation email to everybody at once. And if they've never done this before, then they'll be able to go in, click a link, create a password, and it'll log them right in. Once they're logged in, It's going to drive them to this policies page, and you control what these policies say. You have 4 large boxes here and 4 headers. Obviously, you probably have more than 4 policies, so you'll have to combine them. And I would suggest try to combine them and put them in bunches that sort of go with each other if you can. But each of these boxes, I believe, holds about 10,000 characters, so there should be plenty of room. And then this is the biggie. Make sure you put something in this box here. So if you've ever, we've all done it, when you do something online and you sign up for something, you always have to agree to the policies. There's always that sentence at the bottom that says, I agree to the above policies, yada, yada, yada. That's what the agree to policy text is. If you leave this blank, then well, let me back up a step. So when they go to agree to your policies, they have to check a box and enter in they type in their name. If you leave this field blank, there's just this little box hanging out down there, and there's no explanation of what it is. So just put something in there. I've seen it as simple as this, and I've seen it like 3 sentences long. So just, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Now, this is a popular question this time of year as studios get ready to start back with enrollment for the upcoming year. Studios want their parents to re-sign these every year. Perfectly understandable. It's real simple. All you have to do is hit Save Changes, and you're going to get these 3 options. Cancel is basically just canceling this out. Update. Let's say you made a typo in your policies and the parent pointed it out and you just want to correct that. Just go in, fix your typo, hit update, nothing else has to be done. Update and require is what you're going to be doing this time of year. When you hit update and require, the next time the parent logs into their parent portal, they're going to be greeted with your policies again, and they have to sign them. And then once they sign them, it'll allow them to move on to their information. So that's all you have to do. And then to see who has and who has not done it, you can just use these reports down here. You can use this one to see exactly when everybody signed it. You can put in a date range if you want, or if you want a list of who has not, just check that box, hit view, and boom, you got it. That's all there is to it. So this time of year, save changes, update and require. That's what you want to remember. All right, so now that we've kind of worked through that, let's talk about what you need to do to create a new year within AKM. So I'm going to go back to my home page. So as you guys all know, some of you are a little bit newer, so you probably won't have a list of sessions this long. But these are your different sessions, as we call them, or just basically years. And most studios have a fall, summer, or excuse me, I'm sorry, a fall through spring session, and then also a summer session. Some studios break it down a little bit differently than that, or maybe you have some specialty little 9-week blocks in there. But 90% of our customers, it's going to be fall through spring, summer. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if I need to add a new one, I'm going to go to my hamburger menu, which is what these 3 lines are called here. And I'm going to go to Session Management, and then I'm going to go to Add. Real simple. You're just going to type in whatever you want to call this new session. So I'm going to say 2019. Now, when it comes to your new class schedule, you have 2 options. You can either put all those classes in from scratch, which would be what create new means, or you can copy a previous year's class schedule and then just go in and make what edits you need to make, change times, change days, whatever it is you need to do for your new year. It's just so I get asked, well, what should I do? It's as simple as this. Which is going to take the least amount of time? Is it going to be faster? Are you going to be making so many changes that it's just easier to to input them all from scratch, rather than having to click edit and make the changes and click around and make those changes? Or is it going to be faster just to make a few changes? That's just, I can't tell you the answer to those questions, but that's what it boils down to. So what we're going to do is copy a previous year's. So what I'm going to do is copy last summer's. I'm going to tell it to copy the classes, but I don't want the class notes, so I'm going to uncheck that. And I'm going to leave the enrollment unchecked also. But if for some reason you want to copy the enrollment into that new class, you can. I have 1 or 2 studios who do that. What they'll do is copy the enrollment, and then they'll just advance the level of the class. So you may have like a beginner's tap class and the kids are moving up to intermediate tap, and they'll just change it. Most studios don't do that because they don't know what the schedules of parents are going to want to do, or you don't know who's coming back, that sort of thing. But there are a handful, I talk to maybe 1 or 2 a year that do it that way. So we're going to leave it unchecked because I don't want anyone enrolled in this class. So summer 2019, I'm copying. Session begins. This is the day the classes start. So I'm just going to put on June 1st. I'm just picking a random day that could be a Sunday. I don't know. Registration starts. This is when my online registration window will begin. I'm going to say April 1st. And I'm going to say that my registration window ends on 6/8. So we'll give them a week into summer to finish registering. So I can do this today, March 15th, and hit save, and the parents won't know a thing. Come April 1st, that registration window has begun, and they'll be able to log into their parent account and go to register. But this lets you get it done ahead of time and just be done with it rather than trying to do it the day before. You can also copy your previous tuition tables. This sort of goes back to the same thing as the classes. If your tuition is not changing at all, or it's just barely changing, maybe you're just kind of upping the amounts a little bit, then I would suggest copying from a previous one. So we'll do summer, we'll do last year's. If you're drastically changing the way you do your tuition, and if you're going to do that, now is a good time to plan that, because once you roll it out to your parents, obviously it's too late. But if you're thinking about changing it, or maybe the way you feel like there's an easier way to do it within our system that you've just not been utilizing throughout the years, call us. Let's talk about it before you roll it out to your parents, because once you roll it out, it's too late and we can't change it until next year. So we're just going to copy last year's. I want my session to show up in all of my session lists, which are like that class screen, some of the report pages, that sort of stuff. And I obviously do want it to show up on the parent portal. So I'm going to hit add. And I'm done. So now if I come here, there are my classes. If I had done this as create new when I clicked here, it would just be blank and I would have to come here to add my classes in. So that's all there is to adding a session. Now, we go through this every year, and we're going to go to clear session data. So inevitably, what most studios want to do once they've created a new session is have an idea of who is and who isn't enrolled. So you can do that. So what they want to do is make all the kids who haven't enrolled in that new year, that summer or next fall, they want to make them inactive until they do. That's real easy to do. The only caveat is you cannot do it until this spring ends. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of inactive students. So once my 2018-19 is officially over, so let's say it ends on May 15th, on May 16th, I'm going to come here. And if I did do that a little quickly. So let me go back. If you didn't see where I went, I'm going to go to session management and clear session data. And you can see it's highlighted right there. And then what I want to do is make sure anyone who is not enrolled in my upcoming year is inactive. So what I have to tell it is I want to clear from, in our case, summer 2019. So I'm telling it if they are not enrolled in any of those classes that I'm going to make that student inactive, and they will be inactive as of, so this just shows up as their inactive date. So I'm going to set this, I think I said 16th earlier, 19. And then I'm going to make the account inactive if every student on that account is inactive. and we're going to use the same date. So basically, if they have multiple kids, they have siblings, one kid is enrolled in summer, one student is not, then obviously the account would stay active, and just the one student who did not come back, or maybe he's taking the summer off or just hasn't done it yet, will be made inactive. And then I'm going to hit clear. It's going to make me put in the password that I logged in with, just to make sure you don't do this by accident. And I'm done. So now if I go to my students, there's no one here. If I tell it to go to inactive, there they are. Now, let's say you goof. You picked the wrong session. You didn't wait until spring was over. Not a huge deal. Just go right back. So we're going to go back to, actually, scratch that. We're going to go to edit session this time. And we're going to pick our current year, 2018-2019. And I'm just going to hit this button to activate all the kids who are enrolled in this class. Hit update. This may take a few seconds. And then I can go right back, and there they are. Excuse me, there they are. So it's really that simple. So if you goof, don't panic, don't freak out. You can just go right back to edit session and reactivate them. Obviously, give us a call, and we'll tell you how to do it. Please don't go one by one and do it, because it can be done with just a couple of clicks. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about processing registrations. If you've never done that, though, call us and we'll walk you through that. But one thing I want to clear up, because this came up to me a week or two ago, you can't work in two different sessions at the same time. Like if you have multiple employees working, one can't be in summer and one can't be in the current year. It'll end up kicking them both out, or kicking one of them out. And so the person called me and was frustrated, and I completely understand. But one little misconception, you don't have to switch into whatever session you're registering the student for to register them. I think that's mostly people that used to use our old desktop system that were just used to that method, but that's not necessary here. So if I want to enroll this student, so I'm logged into my 18-19, you can see it here. But if I want to put them in, let's say it should have been on this one that I pulled them up. If I want to enroll this student in summer, I'm just going to come right here and change this. Hit enroll. And it's going to pull up my summer classes, put them in class, enroll it. It's just a little alert there. And I'm done. There's no need for me to change the session that I'm logged into. So much faster. Saves you, will save you, tons of time if that's something that you've been doing. No need to do that, and certainly I would understand that frustration. I let that customer know and they were off to the races. It just saves you a lot of clicking around. But when the time comes, so really the only time that you necessarily have to switch sessions is basically once this one is over. So to do that, you're just going to go again back to this hamburger menu and your session management, and then just go to switch sessions. Pick your new one. So I want to go into summer, and then I'm going to enter a class history end date. So this is the official end. This is what will show up on the kids' class history, May 15th. As I said earlier, you can put in a note to so that it knows. And if they're currently enrolled in a class, you hit change, and it will tag that end date. If you are just switching for some reason that isn't the end of the year, just skip this step. You don't have to check that box off. You can take this one out of the list, and we'll talk about how to do that on some of the others here in just a second. Don't see this a lot anymore, but you do have this, if you're doing manual tuition, you do have the option to set everyone's to 0, and then you can go in and manually change it. We don't do that as much as we used to, but that is an option. But that's all you got to do. Hit change, and then boom, you're done. I just mentioned it. So if you've been using the online system for a long time and the session list is getting long, you can come here to your edit session screen. So again, session management, edit session. And you can tell it to take one out of the list. So if I want to take this one from a long time ago out, I'm just going to tell it. Actually, this one's not in there. Excuse me. Let me find one that is. I'm just going to uncheck that box. There we go. That's all you got to do. And we do get the panicked phone call every now and then where the session that they are currently using has suddenly disappeared. And it inevitably is someone has come to the screen and unchecked that box. And so fortunately, that's usually a pretty quick fix. Okay, so I've kind of wrapped up on the presentation. I wanted to leave a good bit of time for everyone to ask any questions they have. I know I said if you got questions that may be real specific to your studio or a specific situation at your studio, to hold them to the end. So here's your opportunity for those. And then I can share them with everyone who's here and answer those questions. So we got about 20 minutes set aside for that. So fire away. Okay, first question's rolling in, and this is a good one, and this one we get a lot of phone calls about this. Let's say you've set your registration up, and maybe it's registration day, and the parents go online and there's no classes to register for. There's no option to register for summer or for next fall. 95 times out of 100, that is going to be your start and end date on your create session screen. You're going to be outside of that window. So if you come to edit session, you'll be able to see those dates. And maybe they've got a date too far into the future, or maybe the end date has passed, or maybe they had the start and end date the same for whatever reason. That's 95 out of 100 times that is the solution. Typically, if it's the start date is out into the future, set it to the prior day's date and hit update, and that'll fix it. Sometimes if you set it to the current date, it won't automatically get them open. So if you just put it to the day before, so if I set this to 3/14, it would be there immediately. As soon as you hit update, it's there. Next question is it possible to make a summer camp session where people can choose specific days instead of like a whole week? Really, you can, the way the classes work, and you guys mostly know this, they're not tied to a day on the calendar. I mean, they're tied, like you tell it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but they're not tied to June 1st, June 2nd. So typically, I would say just treat those the same as if it were a week. Just in the description, put the date, and then you can do it however you want to do that. That's what I typically tell people who are doing camps for a week. Put in the the week, because it doesn't know that June 1st through 5th is different than 8th through whatever 13th. So just put the date in the description. But that also brings up another point. For summer, if you're running those camps, one little caveat you need to do in your customer access settings. Let me find it here. I think I've gone too far. Yeah, let me go back up. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Because if you're doing those week-long camps, it doesn't understand that if they're picking two, that they're actually on different weeks. It will give them a little pop-up letting them know that there's a conflict there. So what you want to do is make sure that this box is checked. What that does is it will tell them there's a conflict, but it will let them go ahead and pick the class. If this is unchecked, it's going to tell them there's a conflict and it won't let them pick that camp. So leave that box checked, that way they can go ahead and do that, because it just can't parse out that they're on different weeks. All right, lots of questions today. I love it. Let me scroll back up here so I can do these in order. Another good one. Okay, so this one's a little bit different topic, but kind of wrapped in the same. Charge codes. If that charge codes list is getting really long, you can get rid of some of them, but it's not as easy as just deleting them, and I'll explain why here in a minute. We're actually going to be doing another webinar. I think we called it like spring cleaning, and it was going to be on stuff just like this. So you can go, if you want to delete one, you can just come here and hit delete. But it's going to, if that charge code appears on anyone's account, then it's going to ask you to reassign it to something else, because we can't just remove the transaction off of their account, and it has to be something. So typically what I tell people, when you sign up with us, there's, I think, the 5, maybe 6 basic charge codes: tuition, registration, late fee. You can actually see them right here. I think I'm missing one, but there's typically one of these 5. I always tell people, just reassign them to, just pick whichever one of those makes the most sense for the one you're deleting. So if it's some very specific costume charge code you've created, then reassign it to that generic costume one. If it's some specific tuition type thing, then just reassign it to this generic tuition one, because we got to keep the because if we delete the transactions, then it messes up your books. So it has to be something. So yeah, you just have to reassign it. Actually, you can see it right here where it says reassign on this one. So you can reassign this to something else, and then it will let you delete it. Let's see. Yes, next question. Parents can register for multiple sessions at the same time, and that's very common this time of year. Most studios pretty much start that fall registration when they do the summer registration. When they go to do that, they'll just choose from a drop down on their end. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and log in here. It may take me a few clicks to get there. I'll just kind of talk as I'm doing it. But when they get to that registration, there'll just be, when they get to the class selection page, there will just be a drop down and they can choose from that. I showed you guys earlier, and this person happened to miss the beginning, so I'll repeat it for them. I don't really want to put my, that'd be easy. Close your eyes. Oh, come on. Anyway, there is an instructions message you can put. Bear with me just a second. On the registration screen, so maybe just mention that to make sure that they choose the correct drop-down menu, so that they're choosing the correct. Here it is. Sorry. Now you're gonna be less distracted. They just need to choose the right one. So, and you can control what this says from your customer access settings screen. So maybe just put in a message there to be sure that they use the drop-down menu to select the right session. Here is a good question, and it's a caveat to something I said earlier. If you post your summer tuition from the post tuition screen here, you do need to be in that session when you post it. So that is one of the few instances where it does matter which session you're in when you post tuition. Most studios I talk to for summer, it's really just a one-time fee as soon as they register. So they don't do a lot of these tuition postings from this screen. But yes, if that's how you post your summer tuition, then absolutely make sure you're logged into the right one, because it is going to pull the tuition amount for the session you were logged into. So that was a great catch. I'm going to come back to this one. That class conflict checkbox was under customer access settings, and it's on the general settings screen, and is right here under the classes header. So you'll just come right here. Same person with a different question wanted me to go back over activating the students. So typically when you enroll them, they're going to be activated by default. Most studios, when their season ends, want to make everyone inactive until they register for the next year. It's an easy way for them to kind of keep track of who is and who has not come back, and honestly just how many people are coming back. I'm going to run back through that real quick. So when that season ends, you will deactivate them. You will make them inactive from your clear session screen. So what you're doing here is making the student inactive if they are not enrolled in this particular session. And then this one, again, with the accounts, if all the students become inactive, then the account goes inactive as well. What I showed you in regards to reactivating them, that'll happen automatically when you enroll them, but we put in kind of a fail-safe that if you accidentally make everyone in your current session inactive before you mean to, you can reactivate everyone from the edit session screen. So if you goof, just come back here from edit session, and that will just let you activate every student who is enrolled in whichever session you choose here. So it would be your current session. So right now it'd be your 18-19 session. And then another good question, kind of on the same vein as far as finding like when kids went inactive. You can just go to your reports. Actually, show you real quick. If you're just curious about a particular student, their inactive date, let me pull up an inactive student, that would be helpful. The inactive date is listed right here. And then under your reports, you can go to student reports and do, let me find it, here it is. And you can find all the kids who went inactive. You can do all dates, or you can do a specific time frame. Let me do, and the nice thing about this report, actually this brings up another topic that we will also go over in our spring cleaning webinar. I'll go over it now too. So the nice thing about this report is it actually breaks it down into the year they went inactive. The reason that that is nice is if you're carrying a lot of inactive students and maybe you're coming up close to that max number for your payment threshold with us. So let's say maybe you have a max number of 500 and you're at like 480, but maybe of the 480, 300 are inactive. You can actually use this report and go to your admin and go to clear school data, and you can actually get rid of some of those older inactive students. So this will give you an idea of how many you have from 5 years ago that are inactive, 4 years ago. And what I always tell people is just pick a date long ago that you're comfortable with. So I typically start at like 3 years, and you're going to do this second option here. So I always say, start like 3 years ago, and I usually use September 1st or maybe September 15th because that's when most people get made it. They've been reactivated by is the beginning of a fall, and do like 2016. Now, there won't be a lot here, but this will update and it'll also show you how many you're going to get rid of. So this is a good way to manage that, and so is this report. So that was a good question. Yes, if a student enrolls if a student enrolls, let's say for the summer, and they're currently enrolled in spring, yes, they'll remain they will remain active. That's why you want to wait until your current year is over before you make the kids inactive for the upcoming years, or the summer and the fall, because you don't want to deactivate all the kids who are currently enrolled. A little off topic. Let me see if I can answer this one real quick off the top of my head. So this is just a little bit of an off-topic question, and that's perfectly fine. Someone asked about the birthday report. If there was a way to use the birthday report and then also include the mailing address. I haven't looked at this in a long time, but let me see what's included in it. There is a way to get what you're talking about done. I just wanted to see the actual report. Okay, so obviously, no, this particular report is not going to give you the mailing address, but you can do your list and include the address, account address, and anything else you want to include here. The only downside here is it's not going to be broken down by their birthday. So that's a way of doing it, and you can view that here. So it's not going to be sorted by the birthday, which is going to be the downside here. You might be able to export that into Excel. I'm not sure. Let me look at one other option. I don't think it's going to have birthday. Yeah, that's not going to have the birthday on it. But that's one way of doing it. It's not included on the actual specific birthday report. Any other questions? There's one. Here is a good question. As far as when they can take, when some of you may or may not know, but the question is, when will this particular studio staff be able to use like a tablet or their phone even to take attendance? They should be able to do it on a tablet now. It won't be perfect, but they can. However, and this is the crux of the question, we are in the midst of completely overhauling this studio interface. The new interface, like the parent portal, is mobile friendly. And that's another important reason why you want to make sure you're using that new parent portal. It's mobile friendly. It will format to their cell phone, to your parents' cell phones or their iPad or whatever it is they're using. It knows exactly what sort of device they're on. It knows whether it's a Samsung or an iPhone, and it will format to that screen to make it much easier for them to use. And last year was really the first year that we got a ton of feedback. Parents are using it on their phones like crazy. Back to this question, we're hoping to have the new interface rolled out at the beginning, sometime in the spring of next year, hopefully no later than the summer. We were hoping to have it out this year, but it's just not looking like it's going to happen. They've made a lot of progress on it. I know they're through all the settings and the account screens and the student screens, but that's 3 of these tabs. There's obviously a long way to go, and we're going to be doing some major updates to some of those functions as we're doing it as well. We're going to hopefully going to be doing some things to like the recital and the costuming stuff to make them even better. They work pretty well now, but we see some areas where we can make them better. Thank you. Paula, we also think it's very cool. But it is coming, and that will be very nice because they will, yeah, your staff will be able to walk into their classroom with their iPhone and take attendance on it, which will be pretty cool. Any other questions before we wrap this up? I was planning on this being an hour. I'll stay here as long as you want, but it looks like the questions are slowing down, so I'm happy to answer any others as they come in. Give you guys just a minute here. While I'm waiting, I do want to say, you know, we've gone over a lot today. Do not expect you to remember all of this stuff. I really just wanted to introduce it to you and make you more comfortable calling us and asking us for help. That's what we're here for, and that's what we want to, you know, what we want you guys to do. Call us. If you've never used the parent portal before and you have questions or you're not comfortable with the online registration setup, call us and we will walk you through it. If we need to schedule an hour with you, we are happy to do it. So just give us a call and we will do that, and we'll make sure it works for you and your studio and make things a lot better for you, save you a lot of time and save your parents a lot of, you know, a Saturday maybe. I've sat in at some of these trade shows and listened to studios brag about the lines wrapped around the building at registration time. And it's awesome that you have that much demand, but I guarantee you the parents sitting in that line aren't thrilled about being there. It may look cool, and it may look cool on social media to show pictures of the big line, but they're not thrilled about being in that big line. Let's save them some time, save you guys some time, and make everything, you know, make everyone a lot happier. Let's see. Looks like that's going to be about the very end of the question. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any questions or, you know, follow-up input, just shoot me an email. My name, if I didn't even introduce myself, I'm Brett. My email is brett@akatasoftware.com, or give us a call. Angie and Yolanda, who mostly answer the phones, are awesome, and they will gladly walk you through it. So y'all have an awesome day and an awesome end to your week. And if you are in the middle of this crazy storm, stay safe. Have a good one.